Let's talk a little Colorado football. Just going on the road last week, beating Texas Tech in a game that they didn't play especially well for a large portion of it. Certainly at the beginning, giving Texas Tech the first three scores of the game. And then from there, scored on five straight possessions and kind of manhandled them. Their offense, when it gets going, really does get going. And they're pretty impressive. And obviously they have probably the Heisman favorite at this point in Travis Hunter playing both ways, 150 snaps again. They seem like they're destined for at least the Big 12 championship. Now they've got some games to go, and the Big 12 has been pretty chaotic this year. But I don't think anybody expected this year from them.
No, I went into the season thinking, okay, if Deion makes a bowl game, that's awesome, man. That is it. That is an accomplishment. Because look, I think anything above that was a little insane, to be honest with you. We didn't know what the offensive line was going to look like. We didn't know what the defense is going to look like. And they're pretty good on both sides, right? And then obviously they have Shedeur and Travis and all those guys. I think they're going to go to the playoff. I mean, I think it's bizarre saying that, but I think they might. The schedule's easy, but like you said, the Big 12 is chaotic. If they don't make the Big 12 championship game, that's okay. But I don't think the committee's going to punish teams for losing championship games either. To me, it's remarkable for a guy like Deion, who still is very, very new at this, to sort of look at his team and say, okay, we know where the foundation is. What are the dominoes? What puzzle pieces do we have to put in what spots just to be competitive enough to stay in games? And it's like now you look at how they operate. And you mentioned the Texas Tech game. They played their B- game, maybe C+ game, and still won. And I'm thinking, my God, they played their A+ games last year and sometimes lost them. So, I mean, it's a credit to Deion. I think that if they can keep Shedeur Sanders upright, then they can win the rest of their games and make it to the college football playoff or make it to the Big 12 championship game. And keeping Shedeur Sanders upright has been so much of a challenge, or we thought it'd be so much of a challenge this year. It certainly was last year. And they're doing it, man. I love it. It's great for college football.
Yeah, no, it's a really fun story, and they're really fun to watch. And you didn't even really mention, like, they've got the best player in the country that plays about 1 billion snaps a game. Utah and Kansas coming up, then Oklahoma State to finish it. Obviously, can't take anybody lightly, but I like them against Oklahoma State. I do think Utah and Kansas are both interesting. Utah was seconds away from beating BYU. Kansas,
and their AD made everybody know about it too.
Boy. And then had to come out and retract it later. But
don't retract it, man. Just own it.
Oh, just own it. Who cares, right? Like,
right.
Maybe trying to lessen the penalty, the fine. But Utah and Kansas both played well. Last week, Kansas actually pulled their upset against Iowa State. So maybe the road isn't as easy as maybe you thought just a couple of weeks ago. But man, what about this? Playing at 10 a.m. local time in Boulder this week? Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to go so much this route, but to me, I understand it's a TV product, and I understand they're like 18 to 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. Like, they will probably be much more equipped to do that than you or I do. But when do you start to say, like, all right, is this really what's best for the athlete? Like, is this TV product really we've got this big player safety emphasis? I don't know. That seems wild to me to play at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it is weird. I think when you have it twice in a year, that's a problem. I think Stanford ran into that problem. Or not Stanford. Somebody ran into that problem last year. But I mean, like, look here, and I say this about a lot of these games that are early or, whatever. Aside from Friday night lights in high school, players are kind of accustomed to being put in a bunch of different scenarios, right? Some kids on Saturdays even have Saturday morning games, right? In high school. So, I mean, like, it's odd for us, and no, it's not fair.
Are you looking to up your game in sports betting? Meet OddsJam, your ultimate ally in the world of data-driven wagering. With over 260 sportsbook under its belt, OddsJam is the go-to platform for savvy bettors. Here's how it works. OddsJam's arbitrage tool scans the market in real time, spotting differences in betting lines across various sportsbooks. This means you can lock in risk-free profits by betting on both sides of the market. But that's not all. OddsJam also provides positive EV calculators to optimize your bets and a handy bet tracker to monitor your profits. By using OddsJam, you're not just betting smarter, you're betting responsibly. And here's the kicker. They offer a 7-day free trial. Ready to give it a shot? Use code CFA, that's College Football Addiction, for a 35% discount on your first payment, either monthly or yearly. Secure your bets with confidence and make informed decisions with OddsJam.
But you got to get the spotlight. And look, that's in reality all that matters. But again, I think that it's just one of those things where a lot of times the TV execs are okay with it because the players are actually more flexible with this stuff than maybe I think we expect. Coaches, like, they will adapt no matter what. And I think the players are smart enough with their bodies. They're more, with nutrition and with sleep and all this other stuff. They are so finely tuned that going to sleep at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., because they got to wake up, and go through the motions before a 10 a.m. game, they can do that. They can do that. It's not normal, but they are fully aware that they can and they know how to do it.
Harder for the fans to show that restraint on Friday night.
But here's the thing, and I will say this, and I say this from we all went to college. The early game is hard before the early game. Afterwards, it's freaking awesome.
Boulder will
you
be
get
insane.
done with your early game and you go out for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours partying. Oh man.
Yeah. They get to 8 wins and they beat Utah this week. Yeah. Boulder will be on fire. How do you think Utah bounces back after a
maybe
tough...
literally and figuratively,
depending
on how they're celebrating?
It'll look like West Virginia. But how do you think Utah bounces back after a tough, kind of emotional rivalry loss where you do feel like whether you did or didn't feel like you got cheated? Now you got to go on the road and play the second best team in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think they gave it all they got. I mean, I think the gas was they ran out of gas, and obviously not just because they gave up a game-winning field goal, but that's the holy war, man. Like that's what they've been building to, and they've had such a bad season. What else can you shoot for other than to not only beat your rival, but essentially ruin what could have been the best season in BYU history? And they almost did it. And to play Colorado a week after that, I know Colorado has, all that hype and all that buzz, but for Utah, none of that matters. BYU mattered. It mattered more than anything else. So it wouldn't surprise me if that team is just gassed. They're emotionally, physically spent after what was just a wild, wild late night game that meant so much more than the outside world projected. When it matters so much inside, and you point to it like Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, Florida, Florida State, Miami, like it means everything. And to have it come crashing down like that is it's demoralizing. It's hard to come back from something like that for players who by and large are all from that state or all are associated with other players from BYU.
Yeah. If that's where we end up in the Big 12 championship in BYU and Colorado, BYU has certainly played with fire the last few weeks and snuck out some wins. Do you like Colorado to win that game? 3-4 weeks out.
Man, I'm thinking yes. And not because I want it to happen. I mean, I do want it to happen because content is king, right? But oh man, how awesome would that story be for Deion to go from superstar, have all the buzz, to 3-0 start and, being mentioned on all these not even sports shows, news shows.
Yeah.
Then to have it crashing down, only win one game the rest of the way, and then get back to a spot where they're playing and perhaps winning the Big 12 championship. I love it. I love it. And look, there's a soft spot for me because Deion was a Falcon and a Brave. But I mean, I love that dude, and It would be great. It would be great.
The story is phenomenal, and it is. I mean, BYU story's fun. There's a lot of fun stories in college football. There's a lot of not so fun stories, but the Colorado one is just must see TV every week.
Yep.
Get up
Exactly.
early and we'll see it again on Saturday. So, Barrett, where can people follow you? Where can they find more of your work?
Yeah, college football smothered and covered. If you're watching this or listening to this, you know how to do the podcast thing, but it's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. Outkick for the written content, Sirius XM, throughout the week on Channel 84, whenever they need me, and definitely on Sunday morning, the therapy session that Tom Luganville and I hold, where basically people get to call in and tell us how much they hate their team or love their team, and there's really no in between.
Yeah, zero. There's never been an in between with college football fanatics. So, man, I appreciate you for taking some time and chatting with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, DJ.